What does $1 billion actually look like when you can never, ever spend it? When your every luxury is a target, and your empire is built on a foundation of pure fentanyl and fear? This is the paradox of Ivan Archivaldo Guzman, El Chapo's oldest son. He's a ghost with a gold-plated Instagram feed, a billionaire whose greatest asset is simply another day alive. Building a brand new nightmare. We have to start by shattering a myth. Ivan Archivaldo, El Chapito, didn't just inherit a throne. He salvaged a burning kingdom and rebuilt it in his own, far more sinister image. When El Chapo was finally caged in a US supermax in 2017, the Sinaloa cartel wasn't a well-oiled machine, it was a fractured coalition on the verge of a civil war. The old guard, led by Ismael El Mayo Zambada, was still powerful, and rival cartels like the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, were smelling blood in the water. Ivan, then in his early 30s, wasn't seen as the obvious successor. But what he lacked in his father's folkloric notoriety, he made up for with a cold, digital age ruthlessness. He and his brothers, the group known collectively as Los Chapitos, understood that the future wasn't just in moving cocaine. The real money, the real power, was in synthesis. Under Ivan's leadership, they pivoted hard and fast into the production of fentanyl and methamphetamine, turning the rural mountains of Sinaloa into a labyrinth of clandestine labs. This wasn't a passive inheritance, it was a hostile, corporate takeover from within. They leveraged their name, but their fortune was built on a chemical revolution that would claim hundreds of thousands of lives. The DEA estimates that the Sinaloa cartel, under the Chapitos' influence, is responsible for the majority of the fentanyl flooding into the United States. So, while he carries his father's name, Ivan's billion-dollar empire is a distinctly modern horror, one he engineered himself. The narco-nepo baby's playground. So, what does a day in the life of this particular billionaire look like? Forget board meetings. Think fortified ranches and jungle compounds. His life is a bizarre mix of extreme isolation and obscene exhibitionism. Leaked photos and videos from seized phones and social media accounts, often posted by associates to build the myth, paint a picture of someone obsessed with crafting a specific image. We're talking about a man who owns a custom-built, fully functional Batmobile. Let that sink in. In the middle of a drug war, with a $10 million bounty on his head, he has a replica of the Batmobile. It's the perfect metaphor for his existence, a fantasy of power and invincibility completely detached from a grim reality. His car collection is a catalogue of automotive fantasy. Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and armored G-Wagons, often spray-painted in garish custom colors or draped in custom upholstery with his initials IAG stitched into the headrests. Then, there are the pets. While you or I might have a dog, Ivan and his brothers have been photographed with exotic animals, including tiger cubs, a classic status symbol in the narco world representing untamable power. These images are carefully curated and leaked, serving as a flex to his followers and a taunt to his enemies. It's a life where a gold-plated AK-47 is just another accessory for a photo shoot, and a Richard Mille watch, which can cost upwards of $500,000, is considered everyday wear. This isn't just spending, it's performance art for an audience of millions, a way to scream, "I'm winning," from the shadows. The fentanyl fortune? Let's talk about the engine of this wealth, because it's crucial to understand the scale. While El Chapo built his empire on plant-based drugs, cocaine, marijuana, heroin, Ivan's fortune is pharmaceutical. Fentanyl is cheaper to produce, easier to transport, and exponentially more profitable and deadly. Here's the business model. The Chapitos organization, who imports precursor chemicals directly from China and India, often using a complex web of shell companies and legal loopholes. These chemicals are then transported to hidden labs in Sinaloa. The DEA and Mexican military have raided labs capable of producing millions of pills per week. A kilogram of fentanyl powder, which might cost $10,000 to produce, can be pressed into hundreds of thousands of counterfeit pills, fake oxycodone or Xanax, that sell for millions on the streets of the United States. The profit margins are astronomical, dwarfing the old cocaine trade. Estimates of the Chapitos' annual revenue are notoriously hard to pin down, but range from a conservative $3 billion to a mind-boggling $39 billion. Even at the low end, that's more than the GDP of some small nations. This river of cash is what funds the supercars, the weapons, and the private armies. A 2024 U.S. Treasury Department report specifically named Ivan as a primary driver of this fentanyl crisis, designating him a significant transnational criminal organization kingpin. This isn't just drug dealing, it's an industrial-scale operation of mass casualty, and Ivan Archivaldo Guzman is its CEO. Laundering in plain sight? You can't stuff billions in cash into a Batmobile. The real magic trick is turning dirty money clean, and the Chapitos have become masters of illusion. Their money laundering operations are as sophisticated as their drug production. In the Mexican coastal city of Mazatlan, a favorite playground for the cartel, their fingerprints are all over the economy. U.S. indictments and Treasury designations have linked them to a network of beachfront hotels, trendy nightclubs, upscale restaurants, and even spas and cosmetic surgery clinics. These businesses are perfect for laundering. They deal in high volumes of cash, have high operating costs that can be inflated, and provide a veneer of legitimate success. One of the most prominent cases involved José Raúl Núñez Ríos, a real estate mogul, and his influencer wife. The U.S. Treasury froze their assets in 2023, alleging they acted as frontmen for the Chapitos, funneling millions of cartel dollars into luxury real estate developments. The scheme is simple. Dirty money pays for construction, materials, and labor. Once the condos are sold or the hotel is booking rooms, the profits that emerge are clean, taxable, and ready to be spent on, you guessed it, more Richard Mille watches. But their most brilliant laundering scheme might be cultural. Even and his brothers have weaponized the corridor music scene. They commission famous artists like Peso Pluma and Fuerza Regida to write narco corridos that glorify their lives, using coded slang and nicknames. The 2023 viral hit Chawai La, widely believed to be about the Chapitos, has amassed over 350 million views on YouTube. They pay the artists enormous sums, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars per song. This accomplishes two things. It feeds their egos and builds their legend, but it also acts as a money-cleaning service. The payment for the song is dirty money. The artist's fee is a legitimate business expense. The revenue from streams and sales becomes clean income. It's marketing and money laundering wrapped into one catchy, deadly package. Bounties, bunkers, and a life in shadows? For all the bling and bravado, the cost of this billionaire lifestyle is almost unimaginable. Ivan Archivaldo is one of the most wanted men on the planet. The U.S. State Department has a $10 million bounty for information leading to his capture. He is indicted in multiple federal districts on charges including drug trafficking, conspiracy, and even narco-terrorism. This means his life is one of constant paranoia and movement. Intelligence reports suggest he rarely sleeps in the same place twice. He moves between heavily fortified ranches, known as bunkers, with underground tunnels and escape routes, and remote jungle camps. His security detail is a private army, trained to engage with Mexican military and rival cartels alike. Every moment of luxury is shadowed by the knowledge that it could be his last. The dramatic capture of his younger brother, Ovidio, in 2023, which triggered all-out war in the streets of Culiacan, was a stark reminder of how precarious his position is. It showed that the Mexican government, under pressure from the U.S., is willing to go after the very top. For Ivan, that event wasn't just a family tragedy, it was a direct threat. His response? A deeper retreat into the shadows and a doubling down on his security. His greatest expense isn't the cars or the watches, it's the immense ongoing cost of his own freedom, paying off officials, funding his army, and financing an intelligence network to keep one step ahead of the law. The sting of betrayal. The myth of the untouchable Guzman dynasty shattered not in a hail of bullets, but with the quiet touchdown of a private plane in El Paso, Texas, in July 2024. In a move that stunned the criminal underworld, Joaquin Guzman Lopez, one of the four Chapitos, was arrested alongside the Sinaloa cartel's other legendary leader, Ismael El Mayo Zambada. Zambada, the cartel's co-founder who had evaded capture for decades, was reportedly tricked into boarding the plane by a high-ranking cartel member, believing he was flying to a safe house in northern Mexico. Instead, he was delivered directly into the hands of waiting U.S. authorities. For Joaquin, this wasn't just an arrest, it was an act of profound betrayal that immediately raised suspicions of a pre-negotiated deal with U.S. prosecutors. The fact that he was arrested with El Mayo, rather than by him, suggested he had switched sides to save himself. This single event triggered an immediate and violent civil war within the Sinaloa cartel, pitting the loyalists of El Mayo against the factions of Los Chapitos, a conflict that has cost hundreds of lives in Sinaloa state. The Mexican government was so incensed by what it saw as a U.S.-orchestrated kidnapping on foreign soil that it charged Joaquin Guzman Lopez with high treason. The family business was no longer just about moving product, it was about a brutal internal struggle for survival. Singing for salvation. The legal strategy of Los Chapitos has since shifted from defiance to desperate cooperation. In July 2025, Ovidio Guzman Lopez, the brother once captured in a bloody siege in Culiacan, became the first of El Chapo's sons to plead guilty to U.S. drug trafficking charges. He admitted to overseeing the production and smuggling of massive quantities of fentanyl, cocaine, and other drugs, and as part of his plea agreement, he has promised to cooperate with U.S. authorities in a bid to avoid a life sentence. His brother, Joaquin, has also entered into plea negotiations with federal prosecutors. This global resolution to the cases against the brothers signals a monumental win for the U.S. government. As legal experts note, an insider, like Ovidio, can provide a roadmap to dismantling the cartel's operations and, most explosively, expose its deep-seated links to corrupt Mexican officials. The potential for this cooperation to trigger a political earthquake in Mexico is immense, with speculation rife that it could implicate figures at the highest levels of government. This fear was further fueled when, in May 2025, U.S. authorities secretly escorted 17 members of El Chapo's extended family, including the mother of Ovidio and Joaquin, across the border into California, a move widely interpreted as part of a witness protection deal tied to Ovidio's cooperation. So, back to our opening question. What does $1 billion look like for Ivan Archivaldo Guzman? It looks like a golden cage. It's the ability to buy anything in the world except a normal life. It's the power to command an army, but the inability to walk down a public street. His story is the ultimate dark twist on the American dream, a tale of brutal entrepreneurship that built a fortune on the backs of a generation's addiction. He's not just his father's son, he's something far more modern, and in many ways, far more dangerous.